None of the houses in our area have basements. I know they're common in a lot of places, but the county where I live sits on this enormous granite bedrock. If there's ever an earthquake on one of the nearby fault lines, our city would be mainly unaffected. A big pro of living here, but it also means digging more than a few feet down is nearly impossible. You hit rock real quick. My wife and I bought our house a little over 7 years ago, and we've never had any issues with it. Not so much as a broken water heater, which is lucky, because we've never been super well off. Frankly, we're both just bad with money. We met in a casino. Both of us gamble for fun, which I know, is a waste of money, but it's what we like. There's something thrilling about the what if. The point is our house has never had many issues. No creaks. No thunks or hisses. That's probably why both of us woke up immediately in the middle of the night when the whirring noise started. What is that? My wife asked from her side of the bed. I listened. The A.C. I asked. I turned it off before bed. I sat up, listened some more, and finally kneeled on the bedroom floor. I pressed my ear to the carpet. It sounds like it's coming from beneath us. That doesn't make any sense. After a few more seconds, the whirring noise shut off. Water pipes, she decided. Let's not worry about it. We both went back to sleep. Nothing else happened for a few weeks. When it did, we were at the table, eating Chinese takeout and watching Mega Millions with our lottery cards in front of us. Obviously, we'd share the prize money if we ever somehow won. We both still liked buying our own though. Our numbers that night sucked. Not one of the cards matched even the first set of numbers, so we switched the TV on mute in frustration. Do you ever think we should give this up? She asked me. We never win. Why do we keep, what? I tapped my ear and she went quiet. She heard it too, the muffle of voices from somewhere close. Like the time before, I eventually found myself crouched on the floor with my ear to the ground. It almost sounds like. But I didn't finish my thought. I didn't need to. It almost sounded like people were below us, muted and warbled but clearly human. But that didn't make sense. We didn't have a basement or even a crawlspace. How could there be people? It kept happening. Over the course of the next few weeks I continued hearing things from beneath the floor. Sometimes garbled voices. Sometimes ticking. Sometimes pounding, like footsteps running up and down a staircase. I hired a building inspector to come check things out. There's no basement beneath your floor, he assured me after surveying the property. None of the houses in this area have them. There's a granite bedrock. I know. What am I hearing then? Rats, could be. But when I had a pest inspector come in, none of his traps turned anything up. I hired a few more people, but all of them said the same thing. There was nothing under the ground. There were no noises. Give it up, my wife told me one day. Houses just have noises sometimes. Not like this. Don't you hear them too? She hugged me and rubbed my back. Let it go. Okay then, I told myself. Let it go. You'll get used to it. They're just noises. I stopped bringing it up. I stopped sleeping too. At night, laying in my bed, hearing the noises, my mind would spiral. What were they? What was down there? Even the nights when I heard nothing, I couldn't help but imagine the worst. What if it was only quiet because the things beneath the floor were taking their own turn to listen to us? Several feet away, set into the wall where it hadn't ever been before, was an opening. Through it, a set of stairs traveled past the bottom of the floor and down to. Well, I didn't know. It was too dark to see, call me stupid or reckless, but my first instinct wasn't to bolt the other way. It wasn't even to turn on the lights. Instead, I drifted forwards toward the new set of stairs, a hand wrapped around my bicep. Don't. I whirled. My wife stood there in the dim, her eyes boring into mine. "Please," she whispered. "Come back to bed. Stay with me." Something in her expression was so intent, so full of knowing, that I didn't argue. I didn't say anything. We both went back and fell asleep cradled in each other's warm arms. That was the best sleep I'd had in a long time. She's right. All day that's what I told myself. I couldn't just go down some mysterious staircase. It was reckless. Irrational. Risky. In the end, it was the risk that made me do it. The next night when I was sure my wife was asleep, I snuck out of our room and back to the living room. Sure enough, that odd, dark opening was there from the night before with a set of stairs leading downwards. "Sorry," I whispered. I descended. Each step was an eternity. Each breath seemed to reverberate through the stairwell. My logical part of my mind screamed to go back. "Don't do this." The illogical part felt giddy with the thrill of chance. It was the same thrill I felt in the slots or at a poker table. Sure, I might lose everything, but what if I could see the bottom of the stairwell? I held my breath, stepped onto the landing, and walked into my living room. "There you are," came my wife's voice. She was framed in our bedroom hallway in a loose night robe. "Come back to bed." I didn't move. I didn't say a word. She approached me and slid her hand in mine, and I let her lead me back to our bedroom in a daze. My life went back to normal. Sure, I wondered what had happened. Why had the staircase led me back to my own living room? But in the end I chalked it up to too little sleep and a restless dream. "The noises haven't come for a while," I mentioned to my wife a few days later. "What noises?" "From the floor. The voices and all that." Her eyebrows scrunched up. "What are you talking about? When were you hearing things? Do we need to get the walls checked for rats?" I gaped. Why was she pretending she didn't know what I was talking about? I let it drop. Then a day or two later, I noticed something else. "Babe, where'd the fish tank go?" I asked. "Fish tank? There used to be a fish tank right there filled with your guppies. Right on that shelf, where those books are." "Please no. The last thing we need is rats and fish. That's the basis for a zoo." Over the next week I started noticing other things. At work, the accent mark had dropped from my manager's name tag. There was a new house on our street that had never been there. The shade of our wall paint was just slightly lighter than before. I was sure of it. I started to feel a sense of wrongness about everything. Like the house wasn't quite right, or my wife wasn't quite my wife. Imperceptible shifts in the universe I couldn't entirely put into words. Something had happened when I went down the stairs. More and more, I was sure of it, and however small the changes were, I wanted them reverted. For the third time, I woke myself in the middle of the night. I hadn't seen the staircase since I'd gone down it the first time, but I knew somehow they would be there purely because I wanted them to be. They were. I'd go back up. That's what I decided, except when I approached them they only went down. "Don't," I heard my wife saying that first night. "But what if?" I whispered. When I reached the bottom, I was back in my living room. The fish tank was still missing. That was the true moment it began. The spiral. The first time was an accident, but that second time I knew the risk I was taking and I still took it. Every time since then I've known, it was small changes at first. Slow. Our car had a few extra 1,000 miles on it, or my bank account was a few dollars lighter. Sometimes it was as slight as the table chairs getting a fraction creakier, but the one constant was that the changes were always, for the worse. Soon, our house was smaller, there was no guest room and the ceiling leaked. I became unemployed, my job let me go a dozen descents in and my wife started screaming. I tried not to engage with her frequent criticisms, but she wasn't the person I married. She looked like her, but she turned cruel and hot-tempered. If her gambling was a hobby before, now it was a full-on addiction. Even then, should have stopped. I knew it. I had to accept this was my life now and quit while I was ahead. It wasn't even so bad really. I could still turn things around, get a new job, buy a new house, help her see a therapist. I knew if I didn't, I might walk into a life one day where my wife and I never met or where she had some terminal disease, but I couldn't. It got worse. So much worse. One day I walked into the house and found another couple sleeping in my bed. It wasn't mine anymore. My wife and I were homeless. I had to break in like a criminal each night to continue my descent. I was in debt, so much debt. Collectors started trailing me and confronting me. Violently, my health declined. I hadn't realized I could be directly affected too, but my hair fell completely out. My heart started fluttering irregularly from years of drugs the real me had never consumed, and I would spend the nights in agony, relapsing. The stairs are simply a part of my routine now. Hide during the day. Break into my old house at night. Go down. See what changed. Repeat it all the next day. Tell myself that maybe the next descent will be different, maybe one day my life will reset, maybe the stairs are a loop, and I'll circle to a life even better than where I started. I'm in too deep. I can't stop now, even if a part of me knows the cold, hard truth my real wife knew those many descents ago, something she knew because she wasn't my real wife. Don't, she'd said, she was like me. She found the stairs years ago and took them. Many times, I would guess. Enough to understand what was going on. Unlike me, however, she was able to quit in a way I never will, because she accepted the truth: the stairs aren't a circle. They're only a spiral.